On the day of my late son's inheritance meeting, an incredible homeless man revealed an unexpected connection that changed everything. The sun blazed overhead as Sarah made her way towards the courthouse, her heart heavy with the weight of loss. Ben, her teenage son, was gone, leaving her not only heartbroken but also adrift in a world that suddenly felt colder and darker. That meeting symbolized her last grasp at securing his legacy, but it loomed ahead like an insurmountable mountain. The bills piled up. The dreams they once shared, college, travel, a bright future, slowly slipping through her fingers. Walking through the local park, she took in the laughter of children playing, the sweet scent of blooming flowers, and the rustling leaves dancing in the gentle breeze. But all she could feel was a vibrant emptiness, a stark reminder that her own child would never join in that joy again. That's when she spotted Jack, an older man with worn clothes and a weathered face, sitting on a bench. Something about him felt different, like he held secrets the world had forgotten. As she approached, he looked at her with eyes that seemed to twinkle with wisdom despite the stains of life surrounding him. "You look like you're carrying the weight of the world," he said softly, his voice rough around the edges yet comforting in tone. "Just a lot on my mind," Sarah admitted, her voice shaky. Jack nodded, and started sharing stories of his own life. Of battles fought, both in war and in the streets, filled with the grit of survival. His tales were interwoven with love for his own lost family, and they pierced through Sarah's fog of grief. With every word he spoke, she could feel her heart crack open, the warmth of hope rushing back to the frozen parts of her soul. It was a fleeting reminder that even in despair, stories could bind people together, but then her phone buzzed furiously in her pocket. It was a reminder, one that made her stomach twist and churn. The meeting regarding Ben's estate was not just a legal formality, a miscommunication had cast doubts on everything. Moments before, she was lost in Jack's world, but now, the reality of the inheritance stakes loomed like a thundercloud. She felt a wave of panic rising. Would she have to fight tooth and nail for what was rightfully Ben's? "Life's like a ledger, you know," Jack said, breaking into her train of thought. "Sometimes what's on paper isn't half as valuable as what's in your heart." In a heartbeat, he revealed something that made her breath hitch, a shared connection with Ben. Tears pricked at her eyes as a chorus of emotions surged through her. A bond she had never known lingered beneath the surface of their prior lives. Jack had witnessed moments of kindness from Ben, glimpses of a light that her son had shared with those less fortunate. It shattered her preconceived notions, forcing her to face her own prejudices about people like Jack. "Before we continue, I need to let you know about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, hit that bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can drop a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, let me know in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen." Now let's continue. As the courthouse drew closer, Sarah felt the weight of her decision thundering in her chest. Did she pursue financial stability, clutching desperately at the lifeline of her son's estate? Or did she take a step back, embracing Jack's lessons about humanity and community? Could her heart sacrifice the seductive call of money to honor Ben's legacy? Standing there, heart racing between two worlds, she glanced back at Jack, who was watching her intently. Love, values, and true worth hung in the air along with her unanswered questions. Would she drown her sorrows in the pursuit of security, or would she rise above it, learning from the lives around her? Connection that changed everything. Sarah took a deep breath, her lungs struggling against the swell of uncertainty. Each step towards the courthouse felt heavy, as if the sidewalk were sinking beneath her feet. The sun beat down, but she barely felt its warmth. It was all about the meeting, the lawyer, the papers, the echo of Ben's name in a sterile room surrounded by strangers. That in the distance, she could see the imposing building, its grandeur stark against the sky. To others, it might have symbolized justice or opportunity, but to Sarah, it felt hostile. The thought of dissecting Ben's life into transactions and numbers left a bitter taste in her mouth. "Are you going to be okay?" Jack's voice broke through her thoughts again, gentle and grounding. She turned back to him, his eyes searching for reassurance. I don't know, it's just everything feels so wrong. Sometimes what feels wrong can lead to something right, he said, a glimmer of something wise in his gaze. Sarah nodded, but she didn't know if she could accept that truth today. What was right about losing a child? As she started to walk away, Jack called out, remember, your boy's light is all around you. You don't need permission to honor it. His words lingered in the air like a soft song, wrapping around her heart. With an awkward wave, she turned and continued toward the courthouse. But now those few steps felt different, as if infused with the richness of Jack's conviction. Her heart beat a little less frantically. Jack had reminded her of the connection she had with Ben that no paperwork could sever. Once inside the courthouse, Sarah's anxieties amplified. The room buzzed with conversations and clacking heels. She felt out of place amid the suits and polished shoes, a stark reminder of her own disheveled reality. Taking a seat in the lobby, she clenched her hands together, suddenly aware of the fabric of her clothes, rough against her skin. Sarah Mitchell, a voice called, breaking through her daze. It was the lawyer, a stern-faced woman with sharp glasses. Sarah rose to meet her, heart racing again. Yes, that's me, she replied, trying to steady her voice. Inside the meeting room, crisp papers sprawled across the long table. Sarah took a seat across from the lawyer, who wasted no time diving into the details about the estate. The numbers, seen only as a statistic before, slammed into her chest like a freight train. Your son's assets are substantial, but there are complications, particularly with contested claims, the lawyer explained. Contested claims? The term landed like a rock in her gut. Just then, a sense of the unimaginable returned. She would have to step into a battle she never wanted. How can there be claims? Ben was a minor, she said, her voice trembling. The woman pushed her glasses up, the clacking sound echoing in Sarah's mind. It seems there are individuals who believe they are entitled to a portion of his estate. Sarah's heart sank. Who would dare exploit Ben, even in death? Anger mixed with her grief. Memories of Ben's laughter poured over her like a wave, the way he used to help others, sharing food on chilly days, smiling brightly at everyone. Was that kindness now an opening for greed? Is there no way to stop this? She asked, desperation growing. There are legal avenues, but they'll take time, and things can get ugly. Sarah felt tears glaze her eyes. But I have to protect what Ben worked for. As the lawyer leaned in, the sincerity painted across her features was enough to command Sarah's attention. You need to gather support. Friends, family, anyone who loved Ben. Recalling Jack's words about the light Ben had shared, a sudden thought ignited a spark within her. Maybe she didn't have to do this alone. Early, as she leaned on Jack's wisdom, could she gather a community of Ben's friends to champion his legacy together? Gathering strength from their shared memories, she might just have the power to fight back. Let us do it, she said fiercely. I won't let anyone take what was his. As Sarah walked out of the courthouse, purpose surged through her. Veins an urgency to action, a quest not just for Ben's belongings but for a message about who he truly was. But just then, her phone buzzed again. A message flashed across the screen, we need to talk. It's about Ben. Her heart raced anew. Who sent this? What did they know? And why was this suddenly happening now? As she stood on the threshold of uncertainty, the next step simmered with potential, raising a new question within her. Was she prepared for the storm brewing ahead? With her heart steeling itself for whatever was next, she only hoped that the light from Ben's heart would guide her through. Connection that changed everything. Sarah's fingers trembled as she gripped her phone tightly. The message felt heavy, as if it were pinning her to the ground. She glanced around, her heart pounding in her chest. The hustle and bustle of the courthouse faded away, replaced by a whirlpool of confusion and fear. She was on the brink of a new fight, but who was reaching out to her about Ben? Taking a shaky breath, she decided to respond. Who is this? What do you know about Ben? Her heart raced, uncertain if she truly wanted an answer. The buzzing of her phone stilled her thoughts. After a brief pause, a new message chimed in. it's Charlie. I knew Ben. We need to talk about what he left behind. Charlie? The name was foreign, but something within her felt a sudden spark of recognition. Was this one of Ben's friends? Memories danced through Sarah's mind. Ben often spoke of the kids from his volunteer work, and she couldn't help but wonder who this Charlie might be. Fortifying herself, she texted back, "Where can we meet?" Moments later, Sarah sat on a worn bench in a nearby park, the sounds of laughter and play mingling with the distant call of city life. She felt small, so small, as people strolled by. Each joyful face reminded her of the light Ben brought into the world. When Charlie approached, she barely recognized him. A tall young man in a faded hoodie, his tangled hair and weary eyes told a story of hardship. But there was something bright about him, an energy that rippled with hope. "Sarah?" he asked cautiously, taking a seat next to her. His voice was soft, yet it rang with urgency. "Yes, I'm Sarah. You said you knew Ben?" A flicker of pain swept through Charlie's face. "I did. We met at the shelter. He was really amazing, you know. Always looking out for others." His gaze drifted off as if he could still see Ben's laugh echoing in the air. Sarah nodded, tears brimming. He loved volunteering there, bringing food for those who needed it. Charlie shifted slightly, earning Sarah's full attention. "There's something I need to share, something important." "What is it?" She leaned in, hope and dread battling in her chest. "It's about his charity work, and what he wanted for the community." He hesitated, collecting his thoughts. "There's this legacy he created, a fund Ben started with his own savings. It's to help kids from the neighborhood. I think it was supposed to go to his friends, to keep his spirit alive." Her heart stuttered. "A fund?" "Yeah, but it's not just about the money. Ben made plans for events, for scholarships. He wanted to create a space where kids could come together, be inspired." Charlie paused, releasing a heavy sigh. "But it's been hidden from everyone. And I think the claims might target his wishes. Some people are interested in the legacy, but for the wrong reasons." Anger flared deep within Sarah. Who would do this? Who would take this from him? "I don't know, but I need your help. We should gather those who loved Ben before it's too late. Together we can protect what he wanted." Sarah felt her resolve solidify. Ben's light was bright and it would not be snuffed out. "Yes, we will do this. For Ben, we have to fight." As they talked, a group of kids ran by, their laughter ringing through the air. It tugged at something deep within her, a reminder of what was at stake. A life of giving, a legacy worth fighting for. Just then, Sarah's phone pinged again, another message lighting up the screen. She felt her heart leap into her throat. A long string of numbers echoed, a reminder of paperwork and impending battles. But this time it felt different. This was not just about protecting money, it was about fighting for remembrance and honor. "You're right, Charlie. We need to unite his friends and rally support. Let us do it." But in the back of her mind, another worry loomed. How many others would stand against them? The stakes were about to get higher, and just then a shadow fell over her heart. As she locked eyes with Charlie, a thought struck her like a jolt. If she successfully gathered this coalition, what would the opposition do? What lengths would they go to protect their dirty claims? The road ahead was shadowed with danger, a storm brewing just on the horizon. Were they prepared for what was coming? Would they have the strength for the battle ahead? With determination shining in her heart, Sarah took a deep breath. There was a fire in her spirit, but she couldn't help but wonder who else would show up to the fight, and what unexpected challenges lay ahead. Charlie looked at Sarah with a mix of hope and concern. "We need to act fast. The sooner we can mobilize Ben's friends, the better. I can help reach out to some of the people from the shelter, but we need your connections too." Sarah nodded, her mind racing. She thought of Ben's wide circle of friends and how many lives he had touched. They owed it to him to fight for this legacy. "I can handle that," she promised. "I'll set up a meeting." There are people who will want to be part of this. They sat in silence for a moment, Sarah's heart filled with determination but also uncertainty. How do we even start this? She asked finally, her voice shaky. Let us gather everyone maybe at the shelter. That was Ben's second home, Charlie suggested, his eyes lighting up at the idea. We can tell everyone what Ben wanted and what we think might happen. They need to understand. Good idea, she said, feeling a flicker of excitement. I'll send out a group text and get people there this weekend. But the exhilaration was dampened by the creeping doubt that wrapped around her heart. What if no one showed up? What if it was all for nothing? As they began crafting their plan, Sarah felt the weight of her new responsibility press down on her shoulders. This wasn't just about gathering friends, this was about becoming the guardian of Ben's wishes. Can we trust Charlie? A voice echoed in her mind. What if this is just a ruse? Despite her fears, Sarah also felt a flicker of gratitude for Charlie. Here was someone who, despite his struggles, had shared a piece of Ben's world with her, his work with kids, his desire to make a difference. Ben wouldn't want me to doubt anyone, she reminded herself quietly. As they wrapped up their discussion, a small dog wandered over, sniffing expectantly at Charlie's shoelaces. Charlie chuckled and reached down to pet the scruffy little creature. The tenderness in his actions warmed Sarah's heart, reminding her why they were fighting. Want to come with me next time I volunteer? She asked, unexpected warmth flooding her voice. You seem like you could bring light to the kids. Charlie straightened up, surprise flashing across his face. Really? I'd love that. It was hard to keep going after Ben was gone. With everything he did, it feels like I lost my purpose too. A pang of sorrow struck Sarah as she realized how many lives Ben influenced. We'll find a new purpose together, she affirmed gently, her voice steadying. With their plan in place, Sarah walked home with a renewed sense of determination. But as she stepped through her front door, her phone buzzed again. This time, it was a call from an unknown number. Casting a glance around her empty house, she answered hesitantly. Hello? Is this Sarah? A clipped voice asked, sending a chill down her spine. This is Daniel, Ben's lawyer. We need to discuss a very urgent matter. What kind of matter? She asked, her pulse quickening. A pause echoed through the line. I believe some things about Ben's will require clarification. There may be complications. Sarah's breath hitched. Complications? Yes. It's about the fund, he said slowly. And some parties may contest his wishes. Suddenly, all the strength she had built began to fracture, fear seeping in. What could they possibly want? And why now? Her fingers tightened around the phone as her heart raced, a tidal wave of anxiety crashing down on her. When can we meet? She demanded, fighting to keep her voice steady. As soon as possible. With that, the line went dead, leaving Sarah in disarray. The air felt thick with impending dread. If they couldn't protect what Ben had wanted, everything would be lost. As the room blurred around her, she realized they were at the start of a battle. And it was about to get personal. The clock struck midnight, but sleep was a distant memory. Sarah knew in her heart that this was only the beginning. How deep did the rabbit hole go? And would she have enough strength for the fight ahead? The sun barely peeked through Sarah's curtains when she awoke, but her mind was already racing. The brief conversation with Daniel replayed in her head, each word heavier than the last. Complications. What could that even mean? She tossed the blankets aside and took a deep breath, preparing herself for the day ahead. Determined not to let fear consume her, she grabbed a notepad and began jotting down notes for the meeting at the shelter. She wanted to make sure she had all her bases covered. Talking to Ben's friends felt more important now than ever. They needed to know what was at stake, what she felt was right for Ben. As she walked to the kitchen, her phone buzzed. It was a text from Charlie. Hey, don't forget we're meeting at the shelter tonight. Let us make it count. A small wave of gratitude washed over her. Charlie was dependable. He seemed to understand what this meant to her. After a quick breakfast, Sarah dressed in something she hoped would convey strength: jeans and a simple blue blouse. She looked in the mirror, searching for a spark of hope. Instead, she saw worry etched on her face. She wanted to be brave like Ben had been, to carry his legacy without hesitation. But doubts had a way of whispering lies in the quiet moments. Hours seemed to stretch into eternity until it was finally time to head to the shelter. As she entered, the familiar scent of old wood and fresh paint wrapped around her like a comforting hug. Memories of warmth and laughter from past events filled her spirit. This was a space chiseled by Ben's heart. Charlie arrived shortly after, his presence offering reassurance. "Ready?" he asked, and she nodded, feeling the undeniable energy of anticipation in the air. The shelter filled with familiar faces, people who loved Ben and believed in the mission they had all fought for together. Sarah stood before them, her palms sweaty but her heart racing with purpose. "I'm so glad you all could come," she began, and the room fell quiet. "We need to talk about Ben and what he wanted for this place." She shared stories of Ben, his laughter, and his unwavering commitment to helping others. As she spoke, a warm sense of belonging washed over her. They weren't just talking about a fund, they were sharing their love for a man who had shown them what compassion looked like. Suddenly, a man from the back stood up. His clothes were tattered, but the light in his eyes shone bright. "I've known Ben since way back," he said. "He saved me when I was at my lowest. I would do anything for that fund, for his memory." The room buzzed with agreement. More stories spilled out, memories colliding into a tapestry of love, laughter, and lessons learned. Sarah felt tears prick at her eyes. The bond they shared over Ben was palpable, strengthening her conviction. But just as they began to discuss ways to solidify the fund, a loud bang echoed outside. They rushed to the windows, startled to see the commotion. A crowd had gathered, and Sarah felt an intense urgency in her gut. "Is that?" "No, it can't be," she whispered under her breath. But there he was, Daniel, standing by a group of people who seemed to be causing the uproar. Fear clutched at Sarah's chest. She had been expecting complications, but not this. What on earth was going on? She turned to Charlie with wide eyes. "What are they doing here?" He shook his head, worried. "I don't think we're done yet." With her heart racing in sync with the chaos outside, Sarah realized this meeting was just the beginning. As she stepped toward the door, she wondered who else might come forward and what they would bring. Would they fight for Ben's wishes or try to undermine them? The stakes were getting higher, and so was her resolve. What secrets were about to be uncovered outside, and would they change everything she believed about Ben's legacy? Sarah's pulse quickened as she stepped through the door, the cool evening air hitting her face like a splash of reality. The crowd outside was restless, voices rising and overlapping in a murmur that sent a shiver down her spine. She could see Daniel at the center, his posture tense, speaking animatedly to a young woman whose expression was shadowed with uncertainty. "Should we, get involved?" Charlie asked, peering over her shoulder. His concern etched deep lines into his brow. "We can't just stand here," Sarah replied, her voice more forceful than she intended. "This is about Ben. We owe it to him to understand what is happening." They moved closer, weaving through the throng of bodies until Sarah could hear snippets of conversation, words like money, fair share, and exploiting. With every heartbeat, her heart sank deeper. "Hey!" she called out, her voice slicing through the chaos. It felt like shouting into the void. Daniel turned, his eyes widening when they met hers. "Sarah!" He gestured toward her, and the crowd quieted, eyes shifting their focus. "I didn't think you'd come outside. We need to talk about this." "What is going on, Daniel?" she demanded, trying to keep her voice steady. "What are you doing here with them?" A few of the bystanders shifted uncomfortably, and Sarah caught a glimpse of resentment lurking in their eyes. This was no longer just a meeting about a fund, it felt like a clash of interests, a confrontation brewing beneath the surface. "I'm here to figure out Ben's wishes," Daniel replied, taking a step closer. "There are questions about the money. These people have concerns. They're part of the community. The young woman next to him stepped forward, and Sarah noticed her trembling lips. "We just want a chance to speak," she said, her voice softer than the rest. "We were close with Ben too. He wouldn't want an exclusive meeting about his legacy when others who cared were left out." Sarah's heart wavered. Everyone had loved Ben in their own way, hadn't they? But the fund wasn't just about the money, it was about honoring Ben's work, his vision. "Ben wouldn't want any fights," Sarah replied firmly, taking a deep breath to calm the tide of emotions spilling within her. "But we have to protect his vision for this shelter." A ripple of murmurs passed through the crowd. Some people nodded in agreement, while others shifted their weight, uncertainty evident on their faces. They were torn between wanting to honor Ben and needing to make their own voices heard. "Let us just hear them out," Charlie suggested, looking from Sarah to Daniel. "Maybe we can find some common ground." After a moment's hesitation, Sarah nodded. "All right. But there need to be rules. No threats. Just conversations." Daniel's expression softened, and he motioned for the crowd to settle down. "Let us make this constructive. Beneficial for everyone." He threw a glance at the woman beside him, and she seemed to gather a newfound courage. One by one, people stepped up to share their stories of Ben. Joyful anecdotes mixed with painful admissions of loss. It was achingly real, a reminder of the impact he had on so many lives. Yet as the emotional intensity grew, Sarah still grappled with lingering apprehension. "Thank you for sharing," Sarah said as they wrapped up. "But there is so much more to discuss about how we honor Ben's memory and set up the fund." But before anyone could respond, another loud bang echoed from further down the street, drawing their attention abruptly. Several heads turned, a collective gasp sweeping through the crowd. "What now?" Sarah whispered, dread settling in the pit of her stomach, and just like that, she felt the unease tighten again. The echoes of chaos weren't finished yet, another layer had just begun to unearth itself. As she squinted through the fading light, she wondered what more could unravel that evening, and who would truly step forward to protect Ben's legacy when it mattered most. The crowd's whispers surged like a growing storm as the second bang resonated through the air. Sarah's heart raced, a pulse of fear tightening her chest. The shadows of the evening deepened, casting long silhouettes across the pavement. "Everyone stay calm," Daniel ordered, though his voice wavered slightly. He stepped toward the noise, hands raised as if to signal peace. But a chill ran through Sarah, and she instinctively reached for Charlie's arm. "What do you think it was?" he murmured, eyes wide with a mix of curiosity and dread. "I don't know," she replied, her throat dry. "But it doesn't feel good." Just then, a figure stumbled into view. An older man, his clothes tattered and his hair wild, appeared at the edge of the crowd, breathing heavily. His eyes, however, were sharp and alert. There was a spark there, a kind of urgency that sparked immediate attention. "Hey! You!" he shouted, pointing a shaky finger toward Daniel. "You're the one. The man who wants to bury everything under money and greed." Gasps erupted around them. The young woman beside Daniel stepped back, her face pale. "What are you talking about?" she called, but the old man didn't wait for a reply. He forged ahead, the crowd parting as he moved closer, his voice rising. "Ben saved me. He saved many of us. You think he'd want to see his name dragged like this? All of you fighting over scraps." "Wait!" Sarah shouted, stepping forward. "You knew Ben?" The man's gaze fixed on her, and suddenly the storm in his eyes softened. "I did. He saw me when no one else would. I was nothing, just a ghost on the streets. But Ben, he cared." His voice cracked. "He wanted us to have more than just survival." Silence enveloped the crowd, a stark contrast to the fray just seconds before. It was as if the world paused, holding its breath to catch a glimpse of the man who poured light into the lives of others. "He wanted to start a real community," the man continued, his voice growing steadier. "Not just a few dollars to pay rent, and you," he pointed again toward Daniel, "you want to sell out that vision." Daniel's expression turned stormy. That's not what we're doing. We're trying to make this work. Sarah could feel the tension in the air thicken. Conflicting emotions stormed within her. Was he right? Had they lost sight? Why don't you tell us what Ben really wanted? She pleaded, searching the old man's face for answers that he paused, looking around at the faces that gathered. His shoulders slumped slightly. He wanted us to come together. Not just battling for money, he said. But finding ways to lift each other up. That's what I want to fight for. As he spoke, Sarah felt a spark of hope ignite in her chest. There was wisdom in his words, a sentiment that resonated with everyone present. Swallowing her fear, she took a step closer. Let us honor Ben, she called out. Let us do this his way. Tell us everything. The crowd shifted, murmurs of agreement forming a wave behind her. The unease began to dissolve, and Sarah could sense a sprinkle of unity assembling. But then a shadow moved in the distance. A vehicle's headlights swathed the street with sudden brightness, breaking the moment. The tension shifted back like a pendulum, an uncertain fate looming once again. Who's coming now? Charlie whispered anxiously, the unease coming back to cling to them. As the headlights grew nearer, Sarah's grip tightened around the feeling that tonight was far from over. The truth, whatever it held, was waiting to be uncovered. And she wasn't sure if everyone was ready for what might come next. The vehicle screeched to a halt, and as the headlights dimmed, the crowd held its breath. For a moment, all that could be heard was the restless rustling of leaves in the wind, and the distant sound of an engine cooling. Sarah felt Charlie's hand tighten around hers, his panic palpable. She wished she could soothe him, but her own pulse raced with uncertainty. A figure emerged from the driver's seat, silhouetted against the dying light. As he stepped into view, Sarah recognized him immediately. Kyle, one of the local council members who had vocally supported the redevelopment project. His expression mirrored the gravity of the moment, eyes darting around to take in the gathered crowd. Everyone, please. Kyle shouted, urgency lacing his voice. This isn't the time for protests. We need to talk about the future here. You're all at risk. But what future? The old man called out, his voice steady and forceful. You mean one that erases people like me? Where we're just ghosts again? Kyle's brow furrowed, and he took a hesitant step closer. Listen. I'm trying to protect you, all of you. The money coming in is meant to create jobs, to lift this community up. You have to see that. You think that's what we want? Another voice cried from the crowd. Do you think we'll be lifted up or pushed out? As more voices rose in anger, Sarah's heart sank. She could feel the pull of division threatening to tear apart the small unity they had just begun to build. The flickering hope she felt minutes ago began to ebb under the weight of doubt. Then she noticed an elderly woman with a cane, stepping forward. Ben wouldn't have stood down, Kyle. He'd have wanted us to come together, not just for a paycheck, but to find ways to keep our home. Kyle shook his head, exasperated. You think Ben wanted the town to be stagnant? He'd have wanted progress. We can't just sit back on memories. The elderly woman opened her mouth to retort, but Sarah interjected. Maybe we can find a way to honor both sides. What if we could dream a new vision, a future that celebrates Ben's legacy but also allows our community to thrive? The old man looked at her, surprise flickering in his eyes. A glimmer of hope danced in the crowd like a candle's flame against the darkening air. Sarah speaks truth. He shouted. We can rise above this. We've been a family, fighting together. Let us find a way to dream big while keeping our roots. Daniel stepped forward, emboldened. Let us not allow fear to tear us apart. Let us gather ideas, combine our hopes. As conversations sparked around her, Sarah felt the crowd shifting again, not backward but forward. People were leaning into the idea, exchanging thoughts and aspirations rather than accusations. Then the ground began to tremble subtly beneath them, and a low rumble echoed. At first, Sarah thought it was thunder, but a moment later, she recognized it, the distant sound of construction machinery. What's happening? she murmured. Charlie's eyes widened. They're starting without us. The old man slammed his fist into his palm, his face shadowed with concern. We need to stop this before more damage is done. We need to act now. But just as Daniel opened his mouth to rally everyone, Kyle intercepted with a warning glare. You're making a mistake. You have no idea what you're calling for. Sarah felt everything hanging in the balance. The old man, the future of their community, even the encroaching machinery, they were all tangled together in an urgent mess. She had to decide how to respond, to lead or let fear guide them back into chaos, and just then, her phone buzzed in her pocket, startling her. Pulling it out, she saw a message from an unknown number. If you want to protect your community, meet me at the old library tonight. I have something you need to know. Her breath caught. Who was it, and what did they know? Sarah? What's wrong? Charlie asked, worry etched on his face. But she hardly heard him. All she could think was that the night had only become more complicated. Looks like we might be on the brink of a bigger revelation than we thought, she whispered, heart thrumming with both excitement and dread. Sarah's heart raced as she stood frozen, the glow of her phone illuminating her face. The message echoed ominously in her mind. She had no time to waste. I need to go, she said, her voice firm yet unsteady. Charlie's grip on her hand tightened as uncertainty clouded his expression. Go where? He asked, frowning. You can't just leave now, not with everything happening. I have to find out what they know. It might be important for all of us. Her voice softened, but she felt a steady resolve taking root inside her. She would not let fear steal away the chance to learn more, to protect the community she loved. Kyle, still hovering nearby, looked wary. If you're thinking of rolling up to that library right now, you might be walking straight into a trap. You know that, right? We can't afford to turn a blind eye. Sarah fired back, her voice rising again. That's exactly what has led us here, Kyle. We've been passive for too long. With a nod towards Charlie, she started towards the direction of the old library, her resolve firm despite the knots in her stomach. Charlie lagged behind for only a moment before catching up, his face a mixture of support and worry. I'll come with you, he said. You shouldn't go alone. As they made their way through the now dimly lit streets, Sarah couldn't shake the feeling that they were being watched, shadows lurking just beyond the streetlights. The chill of the evening air only fueled her determination. If someone wanted to keep her in the dark, they would soon find she was not afraid to shine a light on whatever secrets were being kept. When they reached the library, an eerie silence enveloped the building, its once vibrant facade now dull under the fading light. A heavy sense of dread settled in the pit of her stomach as she pushed the door open, the creak sounding like a warning. Inside, the tall shelves of dusty books loomed like sentinels. Hello? She called, her voice echoing through the empty space. There was no reply, only the faint sound of a clock ticking. Charlie frowned, his eyes scanning the room. Maybe this was a mistake. Suddenly, a figure emerged from the shadows at the back of the library. A man, scruffy and weary, but his eyes sparkled with a curious energy. You're the ones I've been waiting for, he said, stepping into the light. Who are you? Sarah asked, suspicion mingling with curiosity. Names don't matter right now, he replied, a crooked smile creeping onto his face. But I have something you need to hear. Something that could change everything. What do you mean? Charlie pressed, taking a protective step in front of Sarah. The man shifted, glancing toward the windows as if to ensure they wouldn't be overheard. I know about the construction. I know about the plans to tear down your community. But there's more to it, trust me. You have a legacy worth fighting for, and I can help you uncover the truth. Sarah swallowed hard, her heart pounding in her chest. She felt the weight of his words, an unfamiliar fear rising with anticipation. What truth? The man leaned closer, lowering his voice. Let's just say the project isn't what it seems. They're hiding something that connects to your past. And it's not just your future that's at stake. Sarah's breath caught. What could it be? In the silence of the library, every heartbeat felt amplified, echoing the urgency of the moment. As the man leaned back, his expression serious, Sarah felt Charlie's hand clasp her shoulder, a silent reminder of the shared weight they were carrying. They were standing at a crossroads, would uncovering the truth pull them further together or rip them apart, but just as Sarah opened her mouth to ask for more, a loud noise echoed outside, the thud of machinery, closer than before. The rumble turned into a roar, cutting through the fragile moment. "Do you hear that?" Charlie turned wide-eyed. "They're getting closer. Don't you see?" The man interjected urgently. "You need to decide if you want to fight for your home or turn away." Caught between revelations and the encroaching danger, Sarah felt the intensity of her choices weighing down on her like a heavy cloak. There was no turning back now, everything was about to change. "Are we ready to face what comes next?" she whispered, feeling the pull of destiny grip her heart. The man nodded solemnly, and Sarah knew that whatever lay ahead would test not just her courage, but the bonds of her entire community. How deeply, she wondered, could they unite against the darkness threatening their shared legacy? And with that thought, they braced for what would come next. As the roar of machinery enveloped the library, Sarah's heart raced, the urgency palpable. "We can't let them take everything Ben fought for," she exclaimed, determination fueling her voice. Charlie nodded, fire igniting in his eyes. "We need to get back and rally everyone now. If they're planning to start demolishing our community, we have to act fast." The man's eyes darkened with concern. "You don't know what you're up against. They've been hiding the truth for a reason." "I don't care," Sarah replied, her fists clenched tight. "My son's legacy is at stake here. I won't let them erase his memory or anyone else's." Charlie took a breath. "We need to unite everyone at the shelter now more than ever. If they think they can intimidate us into submission, they have another thing coming." With one final glance at the mysterious man, they pressed out the door, the weight of impending change hanging thick in the air. As they dashed through the streets, each step felt monumental, like a slow drumbeat calling for action. Sarah could already envision the faces of Ben's friends, filled with resolve and fierceness, bolstered by their shared love for him. The shelter would serve as their fortress. When they arrived, Sarah was greeted by familiar faces tinged with anxiety, but her presence ignited hope. "Everyone. We have to talk," she called out. "They're moving in on our community, and we need your voices." A murmur flowed through the room as people gathered around. Sarah looked into the faces of those who had stood by Ben's side, feeling that same spark of connection Jack had reminded her of. Ben believed in unity, in the strength of our community. "We can't let them tear us apart." Charlie stepped forward, his voice strong. "We can create a plan. We need teams, some to talk to officials, others to organize protests, raise funds, anything that preserves Ben's legacy and our future here." Nods of agreement surged through the room, people straightening up with renewed purpose. "Yes," someone shouted from the back. "For Ben." The chant echoed through the room, a rallying cry igniting spirit and determination. But as the meeting picked up momentum, Sarah felt a pang of fear gnawing at her. Would it really be enough? Just then, she heard the scruffy voice of the old man from earlier. "Together we are stronger," he declared, and her heart squeezed with emotion. She took a deep breath, honesty spilling from her lips. Ben wanted to bring us all together. He dreamed of creating a community that supported every single person, one that thrives on kindness and respect. We need to hold on to that vision. As the crowd erupted into conversations, Sarah felt the electricity of hope flow around her. They shared stories, plans, fears, and dreams. Through it all, she could see Ben's laughter, his kindness floating just above their heads like a guardian spirit. Suddenly, a young woman burst through the door. Her face was flushed, eyes wide. They started the construction. Panic surged through the room, but Sarah quickly rallied everyone again. "We need to move now. There's no time to lose." They flooded out of the shelter into the chaotic scene outside. The machinery growled ominously, and Sarah felt her heart pound as they approached the construction site. People from her community, friends, families, and those who had their lives touched by Ben came together, forming a solid wall in front of the looming equipment. They shouted together, chanting Ben's name. It became a powerful breaker of fear, a sound that demanded to be heard. Ben's legacy lives on. We won't be silenced. Witnessing their unwavering spirit, Sarah's chest swelled with pride. This was at the heart of their shared humanity beating loud and clear. As Kyle emerged from the crowd, he saw the resolve in their faces and couldn't hide his surprise. Are you really prepared to fight for this? He questioned, doubt etched in his features. But Sarah stepped forward, a fierce determination etched across her features. More than anything. We're not just fighting for a fund, we're standing up for the values that Ben believed in. No one can take that away from us. The crowd erupted in applause, pouring with energy. The sound of that unity was stronger than any machinery, their voices intertwined in unison, creating a melody of hope. With newfound purpose, they began negotiating with the construction crew. Though tensions flared, Sarah stood strong, fueled by Ben's spirit and the love that enveloped her community. They worked together, mapping out a compromise that honored what Ben stood for while inviting growth into their lives. In that moment, Sarah realized this battle wasn't about fighting against. It was about fighting for a brighter future, one stitched together by love and compassion. The whispers of fear gave way to laughter that felt like sunshine, and her heart soared. Weeks later, as the first community platform arose from the ground, a place where all could gather, she remembered the connection she had shared with Jack under that old park tree. Her gaze shifted to a bench where Charlie sat, helping organize the first of many events that would celebrate Ben's spirit. Radiant smiles and laughter echoed around them, just as they should be, tying them all back to what mattered most. She felt a rush of gratitude wash over her. Ben's light had led them through the storm, and now they were stronger together than ever. Ready for the next step? Charlie asked, mischief sparkling in his eyes. More than ready, she replied, holding the memories of Ben close to her heart. Let South make this place shine brighter every day. As they turned toward the crowd, Sarah felt peace settle in her heart. They would keep fighting, not just for themselves, but for everything Ben had ever dreamed of. The future was a story waiting to be written, and she was prepared to fill each page with love, unity, and light. It was a new dawn and she was ready. If you resonate with this story of love and community, you need to subscribe now. Don't miss the next exclusive tales that touch your heart. Leave a like now to keep this momentum going. It feeds the algorithm and helps spread these important messages. Comment below with your reactions. How did this ending inspire you? And share instantly with at least 5 friends who need to see this transformation. This is the moment to show your support and let others feel the power of unity. Don't wait not even one more second.